That's going to do it from Sacramento. The final score 121-110. The Miami Heat take down the Sacramento Kings on the second night of a back-to-back for the Kings. There is a lot to talk about in this one tonight. I want to hear from you. Open calls tonight. You can use the code above my shoulder. Also, it's in the pinned comment. Get on here. I want to hear from you. I want to hear about the positive and also the negative. This is a tough one to swallow if you're a Kings fan, depending on your expectations of this team. Grant and I bickered about it at halftime. Want to see what you guys think. But anyways, hey, this is the Kings postgame show on If You Don't Like That.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter, stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Bowley. That is a major league smudge.
Hey, welcome to the Kings postgame show. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. There's the box score for you. It tells the story of tonight's game between the Kings and the Heat. The Heat ultimately come up with the dub. Jaime Jaquez, what are you going to say about this guy? The Kings could not find an answer for him. And remember, the Heat were undermanned tonight. No Jimmy Butler. Really, the core of their team was not there yet. Their role players, that shows you the difference between where the Kings are at and where middle of the road Eastern Conference team, middle of the road, I should say. I mean, Miami, last time I checked, 5th in the playoff rankings in the Eastern Conference. Their role players are just much more. They're better than the Kings, and they were featured tonight, and they killed them. The story of this game, to me, for Sacramento, we can talk about the third quarter. You can talk about the comeback in the fourth quarter. You can talk about the play of Keegan Murray. My goodness. But the story at the end of the day is turnovers. The Kings averaged 13.4 on the season. Unfortunately, tonight, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, but between the two of them, they had, 11 or 12 turnovers? Sabonis himself had 4, and then Fox had 7. You can't have that. That's far too many turnovers for that duo. So we bring you back in. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. Thanks for being here with me tonight. Grant may or may not be showing up, so we appreciate you being here. We want to get to your calls, so please use the code above my shoulder. We can bring you in, and then also make sure that you use the code on the pin chat. So anyways, we bring in ConDog209. Welcome to the postgame show, Con.
Well, I wish this was under better circumstances, but this is another tale of this season where the opposing team has key players out and we don't take advantage.
Yeah, it's the story of the Kings. If you even want to date back to last season, the Kings won only 43% of their games last season against teams that were 500 or worse. In fact, I believe the Kings were 30-11 against teams that were 500 and better. So it's bled into this season, and it just comes at a really bad time, Condog, with the schedule coming up. It doesn't get any easier. You've got the Nuggets, and then you have the Timberwolves.
No, it doesn't. I think we still have remaining the 4th hardest schedule in the league. So this is no favors. There's really little room for error going the rest of the way if we want to avoid the play-in, which I would, because who knows what happens in a one and done. We all watch March Madness. We see 1 seeds now lose the 16 seed, so anything can happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the $1 million question. If you are a Kings fan, if you're a member of the media, hell, if you are a member of the Kings or on the coaching staff, is what would this team do in a 1-game sample size? If this team was in the play-in, what would you expect from this team? I don't know what the answer would be, Condog.
Oh, man. Yeah. Exactly. You could flip a coin and get a better shot at guessing because you just don't know what you're getting from Barnes on a night, or even Keegan Murray or Kevin Herter or Trey
Yeah.
Lyles or
But
Monk.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Hey, man, I appreciate the call. We want to get to
Oh
everybody.
yeah,
I got
let
people lining
everyone
up,
else
but
have their 2 cents in, and good night,
no
everyone.
doubt. Yeah, thanks, Condog. You always kick off the show nicely. To Connor's point, yeah, the Kings they play down to their competition, unfortunately. And over the course of the next 25 games, the Kings are going to have to be much better than that. And I'm telling you things that you already know. I mean, we look at the box score tonight, and the starters. You got five starters in double digits. Five. The production from the bench has been a problem, whether you want to admit it or not. Tonight, you only get 8 points from Malik. You need more. You need more. Now, granted, Malik was distributing a lot more, but I digress. We go back to the phones. We welcome in Ralph. Well, Ralph, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good,
Um,
good. How you doing?
yeah, the comeback like that, that's frustrating for sure. I the easy question to ask is where was that effort and intensity all game?
Exactly. Exactly.
I think I know Mike Brown has constantly been searching, and it leaves us guessing as a fan. I can only imagine with the players with his rotations. What would you have wanted to see something different there with them attacking Herder so much, in the isolation, or were you fine with Herder staying in the game late in the game? He made a few shots here and there, but at some point, for me, it's easy to Monday night quarterback this, but I would
Yeah,
have changed.
yeah.
I would have went with somebody else and taken out Herder, and late there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Kevin Herter and Matt George, actually, ABC 10's Matt George pointed this out tonight on X that Herter's quietly playing some really good defense that you're not noticing. So I'm okay with it. I think that his shot's been a lot better. Mike Brown plays the hot hand. He mentioned it was either before the game tonight or it was after the game last night that he loved how Kevin was playing and he was planning to get Kevin back in the game. It just didn't work out. So personally, I get the gripe, but also who else would you have rather them go to at that point?
That's a good point. I mean, even if you put Monk in for playmaking, he's not exactly that much better of a defender. This one I keep getting on social media a lot, especially when Keegan has a good game, is us not running plays necessarily for Keegan when he's hot. Like, did you have a problem there with what you were seeing from Keegan? I think he needs to get the ball more, or to either demand it or run plays. I don't know how it's gonna work.
Yeah,
But
no,
we need to get
Ralph,
him the ball.
it's a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it. On a normal night, I would 110% have an issue with it, but tonight I did not because if you want to point the finger somewhere, that's because the Kings didn't get somebody really into the middle of that zone. And Miami runs so many variations of the zone, it's very difficult to run set plays for a specific player. So if that was happening on a man-to-man night, yeah, that's a problem. But I will say this, Ralph, in the last few games, and think about this, before tonight, the Denver game before the break, in the Spurs game, the Kings had to find a way to win ugly, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like the Kings have kind of taken a few things here and there from those experiences and put that forth, like in the efforts, in their winning effort last night and then tonight. But just what you said, it shows up when it wants to show up. It's inconsistent. It's a problem for them.
Yeah, I think we'd be looking at a good amount of the season a different way because there were a lot, even in those heartbreaking losses we had against Milwaukee, even against the national game against the Suns. We were playing well for the most part until we couldn't make our free throws. In the Suns game, we were playing a little bit
Yeah.
of catch up, but we were playing mostly well. Those are
Yeah.
the losses you're okay with, but this one is in the bag of definitely the worst losses with the Portland, with the Charlotte ones. But there's just times this team looks amazing, and there's these times that they
Yeah.
barely look like a playing team.
100%. And Carmichael Dave put it perfect on X right around the end of the game. He said, "This is the most." I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to quote him here, so sorry, Dave, if you might be watching, but it's the most bipolar Sacramento team he's ever seen, and it really is because this team has great wins on paper and they have terrible losses. So, hey, Ralph, I appreciate the call. Thanks for making the show better tonight. All right. Ralph is out. You guys are jamming up the phones. I love it. So Ralph brings up some good points about the set plays. Now, the one thing that I kind of diverted from my original thought when I was addressing it. So I want to finish that thought. The Kings in the last few games have done more set play wise to get guys open, whether it's Harrison Barnes, Kevin Herter, Keegan Murray, which means when those guys are getting open, they're making their shots and they're in the flow of the offense. Everybody on the court is a threat at that point for the Kings, and that makes them extremely hard to defend. So it's something positive that I've enjoyed seeing over the last few games. And if the zone wasn't there tonight, I'm confident we probably would have seen a little bit more of it tonight. But heck, there's a lot to talk about. I thought... Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to pose this question to you. You guys call up. You let me know. And by the way, I am very disappointed in some of you. Very disappointed in some of you. I'm gonna do this first. So, the King's Court. Go check out my daily podcast. It is short form, so it's your Kings Daily Insider podcast. Get you out usually in under 10 minutes. That's the Apple link. I would appreciate you checking in there. But I had a signed Mike Bibby Nike shooting shirt giveaway today on the King's Court. You just had to retweet the podcast and nobody did it. So stay tuned. We might do another giveaway. Whose shooting shirt will that be? Okay, so Keegan Murray tonight. So call in, give me your answer, put it in the chat. His defensive play, ripping the ball away from Bam Adebayo and, really changing. To me, that was maybe the best 90 seconds, 90 to 120 seconds of Keegan Murray we've ever seen. But his defensive play specifically, was that a better play than De'Aaron Fox's against Vassell in the Spurs? Because De'Aaron Fox's was freaky. De'Aaron was beat, and I mean beat bad. So which defensive play was better? I am curious to find out the answer to that. But the Kings lose tonight in a heartbreaker. If you're a Kings fan, it shows you the West. The West is going to be a grind. Most of the Kings' remaining games are against the West, and the Kings drop back to the 8th seed in the West with a loss tonight. So, hey, thank you so much for tuning into If You Don't Like That. I am Ryan in Sacktown. Happy to have you here indeed. Let's get to some of your questions. Scuba, what are my expectations for this point play in? My expectations are 6 seed. 6 seed are my expectations. A 7-game series. The Kings make a 7-game series. It's been a successful season to me, especially considering they ran it back. King's best chance of winning the game was giving the ball to Murray, and he's the only reason they were coming back. Yeah, he found something. He definitely found something for the Kings. We look at his numbers, and I get Ralph's point. Ralph brings up a great point. Keegan Murray was 5 for 5 at halftime from the field and playing good basketball, but I think there is some nuance there. You have to look at the nuance there because of the defense that Miami was playing tonight. And Jaime Jaquez, as much as many people want to knock the Kings broadcast team at times, I do have to say Katie knocked it out of the park tonight. There is a tremendous difference in players that stick around in college for 3, 4, 5 years, especially on the defensive side of the court. So she was spot on there. And I think, we've talked about, and we had Nando, by the way, on pregame here on If You Don't Like That. He covers the Heat on Miami Sports Vibes, but he was talking about the Heat culture. Nobody can really put their finger on the Heat culture and what its definition is. He asked me, and consistency maybe, but I think they scout. It's I don't know, intentional. They're intentional in everything they do and the players that they bring on. So, anyways, we want to keep hearing from you. So please keep using the phones. We're going to go back to him right now. We bring in Cam. Cam, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Cam?
Let me try to figure out how to flip this camera real quick.
Yeah, no worries. I can hear you just fine if you want to start talking.
Yeah, so I just don't understand why we keep coming out of the third quarter so no energy. There's never any energy. I don't know what the locker room talk is, what Mike Brown is saying to the team, but to get outscored 36-19, I mean, against a Heat team that's depleted, that's unacceptable. I mean, we need to come out in the second half and we need to bring the pressure. We can't be climbing, we can't be digging ourselves out of a hole. The whole, the whole second half. We can't just come in the fourth quarter and expect
they're not good enough. They're not good enough to dig out. Yeah.
And I just don't understand. It's the bench absolutely did nothing tonight.
They haven't. Over the last few games, the bench has actually been relatively quiet. Go back and look at the box scores.
Yeah, even Malik. Trey Lyles, I expect more from Trey Lyles. I expect more from Malik Monk. Jaquez had a great game, of course, but our defense, I feel like we needed to, at that trade deadline, we needed to add a few pieces for defensive end. We need some more length, and it's showing now, and it's getting exposed. So for us to even make the playoffs, for us to even win a first round series, we need more defense. We need more rebounding. I mean, I don't see this team, against a playoff team being able to defend the Stars. They're gonna walk all over it.
Yeah, here's what brought the Kings back into the game tonight. And I know Miami only scored 20 in the fourth quarter, but it was the fact that Mike Brown switched over to an iteration of his own defense, because the one thing, even though Jaquez was playing extremely well, the one thing Miami didn't have tonight was that facilitator. They didn't have that Jimmy Butler guy available that you would normally put smack in the middle of his own. And so I think that really kind of hurt them. But what you're saying about the Kings coming out slow in the third quarters, sometimes we see it in the first quarters. I think, there's things we could point to. I don't think there's one consistent thing you can point to. Maybe it's the three ball. Certainly it's the defense. But I'm wondering if it's more of it's just one of those layers of separation between different tiers of teams. The Heat are just in a better tier of basketball than the Kings.
They are 100%.
So it's what this team is. And as far as what they do in the postseason, I would have liked to see them make some more moves, and I'd love to get your take, everybody else's take. But, I get why they stay put. With the new CBA coming into place, the Kings are positioned really well, especially if they play their cards right with Keegan Murray and are able to re-sign Malik. Now, what people don't realize, Malik, there's a maximum number Malik could re-sign for. The Kings, it's capped. So I digress.
Right. I just saw a comment saying, why don't we see more JaVale McGee? Why don't we see more size on the court?
No.
If Jaquez is getting to the rim that easy, and he's getting mismatches, why aren't we adapting to that and bringing bigger people onto the court to protect the rim? That's Mike Brown's fault. He needs to bring in bigger people that can protect the rim. Shots fall. I understand that Hawk has that a night. I just don't understand how you can score 19 in the third quarter and come out so lackadaisical. I just don't
Well,
understand.
yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, it's a combination of things for this team. And again, I would go back to that. It's just when this team consistently comes out in the third quarters and they're the ones that are making the run, or they're at least sustaining a lead or keeping a gap within a certain number. When they're doing that, then they'll be in that next class. We know that maybe they're ready for that next move. But Cam, when we talk about like protecting the rim, Mike Brown has to deal with what he has. JaVale McGee, I mean, yeah, he kind of
Yeah.
protects the rim. He's long, right?
Mhm.
But Alex Len, I agree with you there. Now, I know Alex has been dealing with a couple things, but Alex brings a level of physicality to the court that is similar to Sabonis, that doesn't really change up the style of the way the Kings play too much. And
Mhm.
I feel like he's athletic enough to give them, enough in transition. So yeah, I'm with you on Alex Len.
Yeah, and was Alex on a DMP tonight? Did he? Is he injured or
You know
did he
what? It's a
play?
great
Or-
question. He wasn't available last game. Off the top of my head, I don't remember if he was DNP. I don't think he was DNP. Help us out in the chat. No, he was not. Oh, well, yeah, DNP, coach's decision. But because you have a DNP, you can be available, but not necessarily be available, if you get my drift. You can be
Yes.
dressed, but not planning to play. But hey,
Right.
I really appreciate the call, Cam.
Hey.
Keep calling, man.
Hey, have a good night. Thanks, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Cam brought it tonight, and I guess the question I was going to get to all of you, and I'll ask it before we get to Chang, is if we want to have the conversation about this team, could they have made moves? Could they have been better? While keeping in mind this team, stayed put and didn't overpay for a piece that wasn't going to take this team to the Western Conference Finals or take this team to a championship, right? Well, there's that side of things, but are you okay with, or do you feel that they could have done the same, but still have maybe found something in the middle, some moves that were more fringe that could have made the team better, while not sacrificing the core in the future of this team? That makes sense. Let me know your thoughts. But hey, I appreciate all you being here on If You Don't Like That. I am Ryan in Sacktown. I don't know why I'm talking like a robot, but what I do know is Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. That's the newest location in the Blue Oaks Town Center. We talk about the steak, we talk about the seafood, but we hardly ever talk about the specials. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. They have brunch on the weekends. You can get 2 entrees and a bottle of champagne for $44. Happy hour, great specials. They've got some dinner specials during the week too, similar to the brunch for 2. So go to bennettsrestaurant.com for their menus, locations, and also reservations. Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. And I normally don't go back to back on you. And I'm going to throw this up really quick. New Works Plumbing. Please, please, please go check them out. sackserviceplumbing.com. Huge thank you to Luis and Adam and everybody at New Works, not only for sponsoring the show, but for coming into my house today on very short notice, extremely short notice, fixing a problem that we had. Not only that, looking around, found some other issues too that we are going to take care of in a preventative sense. So thank you, Luis. Thank you, Adam. Everybody at New Works, thank you so much. Go check them out. New Works Plumbing, sackserviceplumbing.com. All right, we go back to the phones. We bring in one of our regulars, Chang. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. And great job doing solo for the post-game show.
Thanks, man.
I mean, I think my only comment is maybe it's a good thing that we're going to have one of the toughest schedule, because I just think we're just going to play up to the competition, and maybe that'll be a good testing for us. But when you watch these games, I just think it's really what Mike Brown talks about. It's that transition from good to great.
Yep.
We see that we play up to our competition. So when the game, for example, the game yesterday, Clippers, you see the intensity we're playing. We're playing like it's a playoff game. And then we get the news about, the injuries or the suspensions for the Heat. It just seems that they want to turn on in the fourth quarter. We'll kind of cruise through the first three quarters, and the fourth quarter we'll try to make that run again. And I think the disappointing thing is we know the ceiling of this team, but for some reason the floor is just really down there this season.
Yes.
And I know you brought it up about the bench, and to be honest, my question to you is, do you think this team was deeper last year, or I don't know? Yeah, it just seemed we had a deeper rotation last year, and it just seems that this year, and to me, this is maybe my own criticism of Monty.
Yeah.
All his key accusations, over the summer, none of them have really worked. Chris Duarte.
Okay, well, spell them out for me.
So
Lay
I
'em
mean,
out.
so I'll say this: Chris Duarte. I just felt he hasn't really hit his stride. JaVale McGee, he was supposed to be the backup center, and he hasn't really gelled. And even, I would say, Sasha, even though, I think when I've seen glimpses, Sasha looks great, but he seems to not even win rotation minutes. I know he's injured right now, but I felt he hasn't even played himself into the rotation. And it really seems that the key players this season were the key players last year, now minus Davion. So now we're just down to a 7-man rotation every night, where we know what they're going to bring every night. And to me, I think that's just the most concerning thing is we brought the same team back because we wanted that continuity, but it seems we've actually maybe gotten less deep. I don't know. It just seems really odd.
Chang, I'm with you. Preach. I will look into your question, actually. That is a very good question. I'll address that tomorrow on the King's Court. Great question. I guess we would be rich men, Chang, if we knew exactly what it was about this Kings team that's wrong or different. You hit the nail on the head. I said on the pregame show, and I'll say it again. The fact is, Sabonis he's the car. He's the engine of this team, and De'Aaron's the driver. So I think we've seen some inconsistency compared to Sabonis in De'Aaron's game, and I think you could point that out about all the Kings. So there's one thing there. Free throws, they go hand in hand, so that's different. And I'm sticking to the core here. Keegan Murray. Let's talk about Keegan, Chang. Keegan is, you guys ready for your hot take? You guys can call me crazy, retweet me, whatever you want to do. Tell on me to Grant. Go for it. Here's my take. The Kings' top 3 players this season go like this, that have played the best basketball. They go Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, De'Aaron Fox. Tell me I'm wrong, Chang.
To be honest, I think I'm still going with Fox over Keegan just because I really feel like the season is a tale of two halves. I feel like Fox carried maybe the first half and Sabonis carried the second half so far because Fox just looked so much like an MVP and and then he just came back down to earth and I just can't I think that's why it's so frustrating when you watch his team. You see glimpses of them taking that next step, but then they just keep taking the step back because
go ahead, Chang. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
I think my main thought is this team didn't seem the same in the beginning of the season. I truly did feel that Mike Brown was trying to change how we played. For example, he brought in Chris Duarte, trying to be a starter, but then he got injured and Kevin Huerter got his, spot back. And I felt we played so much through Fox early on in the season. And I felt we were trying to play through Keegan too. And most recently, I just felt like we've actually reverted back to how we played more last year, where we're trying to get Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter more while we just allow Keegan to play more defense. Because I almost felt like Mike Brown felt that maybe this season wasn't the year where we're going to play around the 3 core and we're just going to revert back since we're not making any changes. Because I do feel like in the beginning, we weren't really playing through Harrison or Kevin. Again, they were struggling at times, but it just more recently, I just felt like we reverted back to the team last year where we're trying to play through those guys more while we're just okay with Keegan playing more defense. And so I would agree that Keegan has taken that jump where, defensively, he can just, to me, focus on that end and really be a key player. But it seems, I don't know, it just seems odd because I feel like individually we see the core being better, Sabonis, Fox, and Keegan. But it just seems that it's almost at the cost of the others not playing well. And I just don't know how to describe it, but it seems like Keegan recently had to take a step back for Harrison and, Kevin to play better. So I don't know. It's almost just like there's only, so many shots to go around. So how do you kind of get this team to play its best? And I almost feel like Mike Brown kind of goes, maybe last year is a better play style versus this year where we're trying to play through Keegan, Fox, and Sabonis. So
Chang, I'm not even going to forward the conversation. I'm going to let that breathe because you laid out so many things that I think there could be much context to. I think there's a lot of what you just said that could be. Look, I don't know if you were watching the pregame show, but Nando and we were talking about, what's missing from this team. Nando, you follow De'Aaron Fox. What's missing, but you make a damn good point about some of the things that have been bothering all of us as Kings fans and people covering the team. Great things to think about. Chang, thank you for the call, man. You nailed it, dude. Wow. I mean, anyone? I'll go back to the written comments right now. Wow. I thought that Chang brought up some very, very good points. And here's the thing. We gotta take a step back, right? The Kings are still young. Mike Brown, I know he's been around the NBA for a long time, but he's only in his second year here in Sacramento, right? So Monty McNair, I think we would all agree if somebody drew a line in the sand and said, pick a side, we would probably pick the side that Monty has done a great job and not a bad job. At least I would. So yeah, there's going to be some growing pains. And, I would maybe flip the conversation this way. Maybe that's a sign of this team taking that step. If there are these tensions, if this team is dealing, if Chang's right, and there is maybe something to that, if this team's dealing with that in a healthy way, it could be a positive thing for this team. Now, if this team's not dealing with it in the right way, it could be a bad thing for this team. Lots to think about by Chang. Great call. Great call. Scout. I get it. Doesn't make them a bad team, dude. I get it. But can anybody watching this right now tell me you're surprised? When Grant's saying this would be the worst loss in 3 seasons or in multiple seasons, it's a bad loss. I'm not sugarcoating it, but it's not doomsday. Sorry, boss. I'm not trying to take you down too much. That is actually the boss, but show's going good if you're watching. It would have been a bad loss. But this team's been incredibly bipolar, so it's not a bad loss. If you're surprised by tonight, then you have not been watching Kings basketball this season. Dave, you're here every show. I love you, man. And you're right. There's no defense. You're helping me make my point. Larry, I'm with you, man. Yep. They get it done. They definitely get it done. Let's see. The Buff. Harrison makes $12 million more annually than Kevin Love and got outscored 19-10. Really, T? We're gonna play that game, T? Come on, T. T, would you have had that same comment a couple of games ago? Last game? Come on, man. T, whether you're a male or a female, come on. I disagree with that full-heartedly. But here's something we haven't touched on. The Kings have to start maintaining their home court much better. I think we agree with that. Larry chiming in. That Dame loss to the Bucks hurt the most, though. They missed 4 free throws. They missed 4. Yeah, come on, T. Come on, T. They missed 4 free throws down the stretch in overtime. That was more painful. Phoenix, to me, was more painful. How about Portland? Portland, anybody? That was more painful. I don't think if you have been watching this team, you can't say you are surprised. Now, Carf, dare I say, Kings got out-coached, are just better pieces to play. Yes, the Kings got out-coached. Better pieces, I don't know. But yes, the Kings were out-coached tonight, hands down. You are absolutely right. Typical typical Kings post-game interview, no Fox with his... Okay, Wendell, I love that you're doing this. Love it. I love it. I had the same take. I want to see those guys when the team loses hard games. Spot on, Wendell. And here's the problem that I have with this. Going back to if they're hypothetically, to what Chang was saying, if there was a hypothetical tension with this team, okay? If they're dealing with it right, it's a good thing. It's all right. It's part of growing. Not dealing with it right, you have a problem on your hands, right? And I'm not implying these two things are connected to the loss tonight. We're talking about the season as a whole. However, you do have to think about a couple of extra things when we think about just the season as a whole. You've got to put the whole picture into play with this team. And things have felt awkward, right? From the Kings not showing up to sometimes the media not asking the right questions or asking the obvious questions. Many times I come on here and why didn't they ask this? Why didn't they ask that? Many times you guys are right. Many times you're wrong and it shouldn't have been asked. But many times you are right, okay? So I'll give you that. That's a piece of it, right? You've got De'Aaron that goes on the streak where he doesn't talk to the media for however many days, okay? There's just some weird things. Can we agree? Weird things to this season. But what I don't like and what, Mike Brown, we talked Carf, out-coached. What I don't like is Mike Brown putting together, and I will go on the record saying this. Tell me if you think I am wrong. I don't think a leadership council makes sense when you have a roster of 15. I don't. It doesn't work. Think about if any of you work in small offices. What if a third of your office was meeting in front of you, or you knew your office was meeting right there in the conference room, and they're the leadership committee, right? But there's just so few of you that, shouldn't everybody's voices be heard? It's not an NFL football team. It's not 53 guys. So could something fall between the cracks with communication? Sure. Could things be falling between the cracks with communication on the court? Sure. A lot of you are talking about defense. One of the keys to the Kings winning last night in their defense was the fact that they were in position. They were in position. It's a shame Domas wasn't mic'd up for last night. I wanted to hear those guys talking because they were a step ahead. The coaching staff and the team were on the same page. I've talked about it. I think we talked about it in the pregame, talked about it on the Kings court. Throw some zone in against teams without their playmakers. You've got all these other guys that are used to finishing but not creating when it comes to your role players. Make them create. And when the Kings do that, sometimes things work out in their fashion. When they don't, it does not end well for them. So, nothing wrong with the leadership council or nothing wrong with the leadership team. Every franchise have meetings with stars. Now, Carlton, I don't agree or I don't disagree with you. They absolutely do. But how much tension do you hear about when, and I'm not trying to blow anything up. Let's be crystal clear. We are going off of Chang's phone call and we are playing out different scenarios as to what's off about this team this year. And we are breaking down possibilities. So none of this is happening as far as I am reporting. But you hear about tension all the time, Carlton, with stars that get talked to or they get advised before a trade's made or before a coach is fired. It causes tension between the players. Now, I'm not saying a leadership council doesn't work. I'm just saying there's a lot bigger possibility for some drama or some miscommunication when you're a smaller group versus a bigger group. It's just how I see it. This loss was entirely defense, lack of it. Legs have to run on both ends of the floor, at least get a hand up, even if you're 5 feet away. Make it look like you're trying. Now, great point, DSC. That's the other thing. I've said on record, the Kings closeouts can be half-assed, but it's because just that. They are out of position. They're just not getting it done. They're not getting their hands up. They're 5 feet away. Again, out of position. Now, you saw what De'Aaron Fox is, and I tweeted this out earlier tonight. De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter, they were using their length at one point tonight defensively. However, they get a lot of the blame for the defense. They do. And I think Kevin doesn't deserve a lot of that blame, but they get the brunt of it. What I'm saying is when they do things well, like use their length, it's few and far in between. So that's what I have a problem with. And obviously it did not happen tonight. Scuba hopping in on the leadership council. If you are having a leadership council, or let's see, if you're on a leadership council, should be talking to the media after losses. Sorry, guys, I have screens all around me. So if you see me this way or that way, I'm looking. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that's, so wouldn't there be some tension there? So here's the thing. There's reports out there, reports that have been on ESPN 1320, that have been on other radio stations in this market that have said that, the Kings have a process for who speaks to the media. It's already in place in advance of the games, and that is decided by the leadership council. Okay, there's a rotation of the players. Apparently, one of the nights after a bad loss, somebody was supposed to have the night off from talking to the media, even though it was not their, even though they knew well in advance. They asked for the night off. It didn't get communicated. And so that person more or less got thrown under the bus. Okay? So you could see how things could happen with a system like that. And I get it. You can say, Ryan, you're not offering solutions. Ryan, you're being a hypocrite. No, I'm just trying to point out what's been reported and point out some of the things that I think Chang, I mean, if you look into it, it does bring up some very good points. You're right there. You're 100% right. Larry, the reason the Kings many times are taking or trying to take so many charges is because of just that communication. They're late on the rotations. And that's the last ditch effort. Or they get beat off the ball, or they get beat in a pick and roll situation because somebody goes under when they're supposed to hedge, etc. So, hey, it's been a really fun night here on If You Don't Like That. I really appreciate all of you being here. Look, a lot to gripe about tonight. There certainly is, but not unexpected. Remember that. It was not unexpected. If you've been watching this show and you've been watching this team, you knew what to expect the second a team was rolling in here with a star missing, let alone 3 of them. So I liked how the Kings battled back. I liked the way they battled back. I am so encouraged by what I'm seeing from Keegan Murray. And all of you, great points tonight. Wonderful job. Grant will be back with us next. Well, yes, he will be back with us next game. And then also, thank you if you have subscribed already to If You Don't Like That. That is what you're watching right now. You recently got Grant over 7,000. So thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. And then also remember the King's Court. That is my daily podcast, short form. It's a fun place. Give you all the inside news on the Kings. It's free and it's short form. Get you out in about 10 minutes every single day. Go check that out. Available on Apple and all other podcast platforms. The Kings lose tonight, drop to 8th place. But we look ahead to the Kings' next game against the Denver Nuggets. It's the first time, other than earlier in the show, that we have said the Denver Nuggets. Yes, the Kings see them again next game. We'll talk about that more. Grant, check out his podcast. Go follow him at Grant Napear Show on the X. Thanks for being here. Go Kings, light the beam. Sorry it didn't work out the way you wanted, Kings fans.